Eric, it's a great pleasure to have you back here, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Chris, and it's a pleasure to be with you again. These are very trying times, and I'm glad we were able to keep the line open and to engage in information that I hope will not only help the country but also allow Cameroonians and others to contribute to Amazonians to contribute to a peaceful resolution of the multiple crises in our geography.
Absolutely. You and I know you are very close to Isa Tchiroma, and you talk to him on a daily basis. You have listened to the audio that you put out yesterday, giving Cameroon 48 hours to release political prisoners. And today, Cameroon began to do just that. And I asked the question, who is in charge in Yaoundé? Is it Paul Biya or Isa Chiroma?
Well, obviously, Chris, I'm sure you know, and everybody listening to us on this program and the rest of the global community, they know Mr. Bia is not in charge. Mr. Bia is no longer in charge, totally unable to carry out the functions of president. You mentioned early dementia. There's no doubt about that. We've seen it not only in when he was in the United States. We saw it a few days ago when he went out to be sworn in, or the charade of a swearing in ceremony. Mr. Bia uh, very clearly did not even know where he was. If the guy could not know where he was on the day of his swearing in, it's not in the daily running of the affairs of state that he will know what's going on. No, the man is not in charge anymore. This is there's a kleptocracy that is in charge in Cameroon. Um, Almost look. I don't know if it's a lot of people use the word satanism, satanists who are running the place. There's a dark cloud that settled over Cameroon, and until that can be resolved, I don't know. I'm not. I'm certain the country cannot move forward. And part of what we are doing, part of what Mr. Chiroma is doing, besides reclaiming his victory in the elections, is to give this country a chance to come out of that dark place and to seek the light again.
So we so this is the question, Eric. A 48-hour ultimatum. Again, the question remains: what after the 48 hours? And those 48 hours would have expired by midnight tonight. What follows, considering that all the detainees, I mean the important ones in that matter, they remain behind bars?
Well, first of all, please, this frightened government is trying to play it both ways. They've given the impression, they've released people, some people, but none of the people who threaten the system in any way. So this is a cloak. They've tried, they want to be able to tell the global community, we release people. But we know, of course, that is a smokescreen. The main characters, the people that are political prisoners have not been released. We know
Right.
that. And Mr. Chiroma and the team will not stop at a simple call for the release of prisoners. The ultimate objective is to get to a 2D. That's the ultimate objective, to release all these political prisoners, to release all these people who are suffering from the high levels of injustice in the country. So when you ask me what next, which is a very legitimate question, and people need to know this, Um, we are on a journey to help the people of that country reclaim their power. The whole point of calling for a 48-hour, of giving this government a 48-hour ultimatum was to awaken the people of Cameroon, who seem to, because the change that is demanded is not Chiroma's change, it's change for the nation. If the nation wants it, the nation has to stand up and reclaim it. We do not see a future for that country, that piece of geography, with the current group that's in charge of it. We do not see that for a whole variety of reasons. The thievery, the dilapidation of state resources, the absence of a vision, the inability to articulate policies that hold promise for future growth and development. All of these things are missing. And I don't, no country will develop by some blind, like a ship in the sea without a rudderless ship in the sea. No country develops under those circumstances. What Mr. Tchiroma is seeking to do is, one, bring peace to the country. Two, institute policies that would ensure growth in the economy. Begin to repair the broken links amongst the citizens. So a major effort at national reconciliation. Reintroduce justice that was long forgotten in the country. Cameroonians do not really know what justice is. Repair the broken health and education infrastructure. Rebuild our roads. Look at a country look at 43 years of Mr. Bia's governance that at least should have been reflected in the quality of life in some of the key areas of the country, the political capital, in the economic capital. But go to those two main cities. They have no lights, they have no water, they have no roads. They've been transformed into heaps of garbage. There are no jobs for the young people. I am currently outside the country in another African capital that doesn't have a tenth of the resources of Cameroon. But look at how they've transformed the capital and beyond, because I've driven outside the capital for 2 hours on highways that would make even developed countries in Europe and beyond jealous. That's what we're talking about. We have a country that has all the resources to move up the development ladder, but unfortunately just has a bunch of leaders who have no vision, who have no sense of patriotism, who have no desire to share the wealth of the land, who are indifferent to the suffering of the people. That is why they can arrest, throw young men in jail, and lock up the jailhouse and throw the keys away. They're totally indifferent to the degrading human condition in that country. So Mr. Tchiroma is really determined to go the full 9 yards. He will become the third president of the Republic of Cameroon, whether they want it or not. And he will transform that country in a very short time. Mr. Tchiroma has no intention of spending 4 plus 3 makes 7. The 43 years of Mr. Bia, 4 plus 3, 7. He has no intention of spending even 7 years in office. He believes the work he has to do will take 3 to 5 years at the very most. And he intends to do that. Change the constitution. Make sure that the electoral system would allow citizens to vote and arrive at the candidate who gets the majority. Ensure that peace returns to the land, across the land, in the English-speaking parts of that country, in the far north and in the east, the most resourceful parts of that nation are the ones that suffer the most. And think about this, Chris. A bunch of English-speaking elite created or faked circumstances where Mr. Biya, a regime that has destroyed the land, killed people, sent people on exile, sent others as internally displaced within the country. That regime got the most votes. If anybody can explain that to me, then I'll understand that Mr. Biya, the incapable Mr. Biya, did win the election. That's where we are today in the country.
It is interesting when you lay out all that Tchiroma is about to accomplish or embark upon, reforming the country. When we spoke yesterday, he said he has moved from candidate Tchiroma to a crusader, a revolutionary leader. In other words, he's no longer considering the struggle at this moment to be about a presidential election, but about a revolution. If you can explain a little bit what he means by this, and if he were to do all those things you have enumerated here, how soon? How soon? Because people are very impatient out there.
Well, Chris, first of all, to explain that dichotomy between the political leader and the revolutionary leader that Mr. Tchiroma has become. And I can tell you, it's only in the last few days that he has readjusted that in his mind to understand that he's no longer this politician who sought the highest office in the land. That will come. But between now and then, he has to lead a revolution. So he's become the head of a resistance movement. And it takes for a different mindset, it takes for a different posture and a new set of policies. So Mr. Tchiroma and his team are working night and day now to develop the appropriate policies that will be used to lead the revolution that must take place. But at the base of all the action that will be taken in the coming days is the Cameroonian people who demand change. The change is not about Mr. Tchiroma. The change is about Cameroon. If the people want change, they will have to stand up and be counted. They cannot fall back, and say, well, we're used to this, to the pain and the suffering, and we'll continue. No. If they want change, they'll have to stand up and demand it and go for it. It should not only be in their minds, it should be in their actions. That is what Mr. Tchiroma, that is what he's going to be leading in the interim before he moves on to be inaugurated as president. He'll be leading that charge of resistance, for ensuring that this regime does not survive, and it will not. So the actions are being taken. They're being developed into policy, which should begin to become evident as early as tomorrow. Today we are on Monday, the 10th of November, mark my words. As early as 11th, 12th of November, those policies will start rolling out those policies. The system in Yaoundé will not be given the break they think they can have. They cannot. For a whole variety of reasons, Chris. Think about this. If we let these guys off the hook now, and they see themselves running the country over the next 5, 6, 7 years, what do you think they'll do? They'll perfect their system. That's the first thing they will do. Perfecting their system. And then it'll be a government, the type of government that serves the few. It'll be that type of government for the next 50 years, or at least the next 25, before the next revolution. So we can't let them get away with it.
So
Um, we've got to, yes.
does Mr. Tchiroma understand the urgency with which Cameroonians want him to act?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question. If he understands what?
Whether Mr. Tchiroma understands the urgency with which Cameroonians want him to act.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, Chris. You know as well as I do, and I think you spoke to him. You know as
Yeah.
well as I do that the primary thing he was concerned about was his security. He had to be concerned about that because when he was in Cameroon on Cameroonian soil, they surrounded his house. He was being protected by a bunch of young men and women who were willing to sacrifice everything to protect him. He was in his house. The military surrounded that house a couple of blocks away from the human shield. And then that shield, that human shield, was declining over time for a whole variety of reasons: hunger, tiredness, poor conditions of living. But a lot of people came around. You must have heard of Project C that we were part of.
Yeah.
They were raising money to feed those young people. That kept them there for a while, but the military kept putting the pressure, moving in, towards the house. And it got to a point where Mr. Tchiroma recognized the fact that if he continued to stay in that house in Garoua, he would be picked up. They would storm it. There were snipers all around the house. So he knew that he had to be exfiltrated one way or the other. And with the help of some loyal military guys, he was exfiltrated. So the next thing was for him to stay alive, to be in a safe place. And the only country he could go to at the time was willing to provide the security, but did not want him to speak. So he could not speak. He absolutely had to respect that. It was a commitment he took. But that same government and others got to work, African governments, who are totally unhappy with the situation in Cameroon. They got to work to find a decent place and a safe place for Mr. Tchiroma, where he is now. And as soon as he got there, he made the speech he made last night.
So hold on
So
there, hold on
we'll
there.
see
Let's
him.
get this
Yeah.
very clear. So what you are saying is some African leaders came together or spoke and among themselves, discussed among themselves, and gave Tchiroma a secured location where he is now. Correct?
Absolutely. I'm confirming that, yes.
Awesome. All right.
And
Please.
and so he will increasingly, I mean, he obviously does not want to create problems for that new leader, the leader
Yeah.
in the way he is now, but he obviously will, once we unleash this policy, the new policy, he will have to, be more present and play that leadership role more effectively than he has been able to, given the circumstances of his protection where he is. So we'll be seeing more of him in the coming days and weeks.
I don't need you to disclose wherever he is, but last week we reported that he was flown back into the country, and many people believe that as of now he is in the country. So you are confirming here that he is now in the hands of a more secure government somewhere in Africa.
I would say that he's in a more secure place somewhere in Africa, which includes Cameroon. I don't, I mean, I don't want to give the folks in Yaoundé reason to maybe to destroy a certain part of the country because they're looking for Tchiroma.